So one of the things that I've found over the years of training, moving my body, trying to learn new skills, is that it's very easy to get caught up in three ways primarily. So the first one is the discipline trap, we'll call it. And it's applies to whatever field you're in. It's the idea that you're not disciplined enough or you're not a hard enough worker to deserve success or to do really well. And this is an interesting one because we all know that discipline and hard work pay off. They are effective. But what you need to watch out for is using that as a crutch or using that as a distraction from inefficiencies, and especially from looking at your all-round systems and your life as a whole. If that's inefficient, if that's not cohesive, if the greater why or purpose that you have doesn't align with the thing you're doing, then there's an energy drain in that, and no amount of discipline is going to fix that. Tiredness isn't a lack of discipline. Tiredness isn't laziness. Demoralisation isn't a lack of discipline. These are separate things. So the discipline trap is thinking you need to do more when actually you just need to be a bit more intentional or efficient in the way you do what you do. Which leads me to the second trap, the dogma trap. The problem of following a system which wasn't designed specifically for you, which you were trying to fit into. In other words, a practice that you are serving without really understanding how it's meant to serve you. And this ties in with the discipline trap, because if you're in the dogma trap, it means that you're potentially flogging yourself really hard or trying really hard to achieve something in a way which is inefficient. It's not personalized. It's someone else's dogma, someone else's way of doing things, which you are trying to adopt. And sometimes there's a friction there too. The issue with the dogma trap, distinctly from the discipline trap, is that the dogma trap sees you doing things you don't understand for reasons you haven't fully considered. And so you end up following a particular method without knowing why, without knowing how it's serving you. You might not even be following the best method because you haven't questioned it enough. And a blind kind of respect for authority can often lead you into this one. And the third one is the toxicity trap. So the toxicity trap is what happens when you have a look at this. Anyway, so the toxicity trap is what happens when you stay with a practice which isn't attuned to you or which isn't resonating with you for too long. It results in a damage to the relationship between yourself and your body. Not that they're really separate things. It results in a lack of self-trust. The feeling that you are not who you say you are. The feeling that you can't do what you said you wanted to do. The feeling that you are not living the life that you know you could live. All results of the toxicity trap. Because when you stick with something that isn't for you, you start to think that you're the problem. It's like, if we assess the ability or the value of a fish on how well it can climb a tree, then it's a toxic measurement, and the fish trying to climb a tree is in a toxic environment. It's not that it's a bad fish, right? So you got to find the right environment. You've got to call it quits at the right time on specific practices, and welcome in space for new practices. You have to let some things go to explore newness. And if you're able to do that, then you won't be quitting in the bigger picture. Okay, so three traps: the discipline trap, the dogma trap, and the toxicity trap. Now, the way you overcome these is threefold. So for the discipline trap, the answer is to become dedicated. How do we do this in a way which is productive, fulfilling, and authentic? Well, we find a process which we can love, and we choose to love that process by applying ourselves to it fully. What does this mean? How do we find something we love? Well, first off, we have to be willing to love ourselves enough to listen to what our nervous system... Excuse me, dogs. Excuse me. To what our nervous system is saying. If you're not willing to listen to your body, your inner voice, your spiritual, emotional compass, then there's no way that you can actually be dedicated. You can only be dedicated when you find something you love or create a love for a process. The next thing, so this is the answer to the dogma trap, is to become wise. To be wise means that you are able to embody your higher values or ideals. You're able to put into practice a concept or idea through your work, through your daily action. You're only wise if you can act upon and live according to a value. You're not wise just by knowing it. You're not wise by reading a lot of books, by being knowledgeable. That isn't wisdom. That is the equivalent of stuffing your face full of food but never chewing and digesting. Wisdom is digested, metabolized information that becomes part of you. So you are the living embodiment of that thing. This metabolizing, digesting, taking in information, making it your own, feeling how it sits with you, is how you escape the dogma trap. And it's how you become wise. The third solution is fulfillment. And so fulfillment is what happens when you are comfortable with where you are now. You are being here now. You feel as though you are connected to your present beingness. And at the same time, not a but and at the same time, you are actively seeking what will bring you fulfillment in the future. You are moving towards a vision of what you could be, what you could become, your potential, at the same time as loving this now in all of its imperfection. When you can do both, you unite those two worlds of this and that, of heaven being the visions, the ethereal, the ideas, the potential, that's kind of heavenly, ethereal, abstract, airy, with the earth of here, now, me, this, embodied. Some people get lost in being here now and they avoid their potential. Some people are so caught up in their potential that they never realize it because they're never present with themselves. And so uniting these two, that's fulfillment. So there you go. The three traps: discipline trap, dogma trap, toxicity trap, and the solution to each one respectively. We have dedication, we have wisdom, we have fulfillment. Go craft your attuned practice. Go find the practice which ticks those boxes. Find it within yourself and find it within the outside world. Bring them both together, and that's your thing.